Welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time here, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, comment if you like what you're seeing. So today's video is the first of many videos that I'm planning on releasing now. So this is a part of the Message to Men series. Today's video is going to be focusing on the 5 things I wish I knew when I was at 18. To be very honest with you, I don't think anybody really knows much at 18. You're still trying to figure it out. You think you're figuring it out, and you're barely scraping the pass mark. And we're not even talking academics here. But generally speaking, we actually have maybe no clue what's happening even at the age of, let's say, 22, 23. However, I think that these lessons are lessons that should be learned earlier rather than being it too late. And they've contributed to my well-being now in my later stage of life. And I think at 18, if you could get it, or heck, even before, it would be extremely beneficial. So the first point that I wish I knew when I was at 18 was that you can have an open mind to masters / teachers, or where you gather information from. Growing up at 18, and I guess that would be the case for anyone coming into the world, you carry a lot of bias with you. I was very judgmental. There was this specific criteria that I wanted people to meet when looking at whether or not you're qualified to teach me, or rather me take some information away from you. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean in a formal setting, like, you go to the classroom and you sit down and learn. But some of my best lessons came from informal settings. For example, the barber shop. Had I listened to some things, some conversations, had I been a bit more Marco, I would have been better off in not a lot or a plethora of things, but definitely I would have seen myself not questioning certain things when it happened, and then coming to the realization that you knew this, you just didn't actively take it. So at 18, I think it's also somewhat your new stage where you start to question a lot of things. The philosophies or maybe the perspectives that you had before may not have that much of a tight grip on you, as you now come to terms with the fact that you're maturing into this adult and you're seeing things in a different perspective. But definitely keeping an open mind to the people I can learn from, the lessons I can get. So sometimes the best lessons didn't come from those who wore a suit and tie. It came from the person who may just look way too scruffy to be, real. Learning something doesn't mean that you have to abandon everything that you've learned before. You can add on to it. You can now get an appreciation for how someone sees something. And of course, that all comes with keeping an open mind. Getting into number 2 actually feeds back from number 1, coming down to the later end where I spoke about appearances. That is not caring too much about your appearance. At 18, or well, rather a little bit before, I was so concerned at how people viewed me, simply because, well, I wasn't the most confident. I always carried these bad elements that probably stack onto why I was concerned about my appearance. So I spent a lot of years with bad posture. I spent a lot of years not having the best clothes or clothing. Really and truly, I was never concerned about clothing at that time. I wanted to play games. I wanted to get more stuff to entertain me. My focus was on pleasure, and I had no concern about how I would appear in terms of what I would put on. However, I would become very self-aware, because it's like, oh shoot, I have nothing good to wear and I'm very conscious of how I look right now. That held me back from so much. It held me back from YouTube, like I mentioned in my quarantine video where I was extremely scruffy because of lockdown. I used to be so worried about how I come on YouTube, and right about now, bruh, I could come anyhow. Like, I could come anyhow, because that is now a confidence that I'm more confident in what I have to bring rather than how I look. Of course, that appearance changed because when I started to work at that age, most of my budget went into working clothes, formal clothes. And I barely spent any money on new wardrobe. So if you guys see some repeat clothes here, well, You figured it out. It's actually funny because when I started working and I realized that I had the funds to change my appearance and I invested in some, casual clothes, I barely wore those. I'm telling you, work shoes, formal shoes, when you're getting into a certain life, trust me, fellas, you are going to be beating the formal shoes more than your casual shoes. Hopefully, if you're serious about you're building yourself, building your career and everything like that. I mean, we see so many men and glorify their appearance, especially rappers, and they have on these shoes, they have on these particular outfits, but then that's their job. They get paid to look like that. They get paid to advertise these brands. And of course, there's nothing wrong with owning a Nike, but I'm just saying that my Nike shoe has probably seen less wear in its whole lifetime in comparison to the much more formal shoe. And there are much more comfortable sneakers there anyway. Number 3 is dealing with the fact that some people just don't get it. Now, what do I mean by that? When I was 18 and I now discovered my talent for spoken word, I always used to write these pieces that reflected all about change and all about understanding yourself and being that best version of yourself and, getting up and just sticking it to the man. And then I realized a lot of people don't care about that, or they are not at that level. I spent a lot of time being frustrated with how people see the world. Like I said, this was a kind of biased perspective, of course, because I would have seen it from somewhat of a privileged perspective, because I was afforded a lot of luxury that most people didn't have. For example, I had both of my parents. That's a lot sometimes in comparison to what some people may have in one or none at all. But the most important thing that I learned from that is that if you want to change others, begin with yourself. So instead of I came to this point where I was constantly writing, constantly going to Facebook and just being mad at the world and really and truly not doing anything besides talking about the problem, I realized that I was a contributing factor to said problem at 18. And at 18, you're fueled with so many hormones. I guess some of us are still fueled with all these hormones that you just need to stick it to the system and you're so fed up. But you have a lot to change for yourself. So if you're at 18 and you have that specific ideology, a matter of fact, whatever age you are at, and you have this specific ideology that people need to see this way, and this is how it is, and you're so frustrated that the world can't see it, here's what. Begin with yourself. Make some positive changes on yourself, or I don't know, whatever you do. I just wish I had that information earlier, and maybe it wouldn't have taken me this long to reach to YouTube. Coming in at number 4 is overextending yourself. Now, I still do this sometimes. It's a really bad habit. In essence, you don't have to be involved everywhere. There's a saying that we, go by anywhere the breeze blow your day or wherever the drum beats. You don't need to be involved in everything. And I understand that feeling. When you're young and you're coming up and you're showing so much potential for the world, there's a lot of people who want to use that energy or gravitate towards you because, well, you're in a very sensitive time of your life, and they'll put you in so many groups. Oh, you want to be here? Lead here. You want to be this? Do that. Oh, why don't you consider this? So you reach to this stage in life where there is a constant pull for you to be involved, but overextending yourself benefits no one. Eventually, you won't even be efficient enough in what you're involved in. You won't be efficient by having so many tasks on you at the same time that you just eventually damage your reputation, because everyone has so much hope in you. They put so much into you, and they see you as an investment, and that's nothing wrong with that. People taking a genuine interest in you. However, when they all want to take a genuine interest in you and put so much into you, then you end up ultimately disappointing them. You burn more bridges than you actually create. And that sort of happened to me. Some of those bridges weren't even important, to be very honest. But I found myself in a lot of activities at a younger state, and it just had me all over, and really and truly without that focus, I didn't even know what was my purpose within anything. And that's actually a regular activity that a lot of people do. I'm not sure if they're doing it for a resume. I'm not sure if they're doing it to keep themselves occupied, or they're looking for a purpose. And if you are, that's good, but you have to realize that you can't be involved in everything. You can't clone yourself. As much as I would just like to use that to clone Jutsu, that cannot be done. Find your niche, dedicate some time to it, and hey, if it's not working out, pull out, or get yourself managed. Definitely manage the amount of things you are involving yourself in. And the last thing that I wish I knew, which is something that now I can actually say this is the most recent one that I've learned, is just about taking care of yourself, mentally, physically, spiritually. Grow in all aspects. Exercise is important. You need to rest. A lot of us men take rest for granted, and eventually when it catches up to us, boom, we crash. You don't even sometimes realize how detrimental not sleeping is to your health. And not only just not sleeping, but just not taking a break from everything that you're always involved in, overindulging, not showing any ability to have any temperance in you. That's just not healthy. Of course, meditate and, keep yourself in a spiritual realm. I kind of denied this for a long part of my life. That was something I wish I learned at probably 10, but it's definitely something that, as I recently learned, I see the importance of it. And of course, guys, that's all for today's video. If you like this type of content, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, comment below what's something you wish you had at 18. And of course, check out the rest on the channel. I upload every Tuesday, and with the weekly self-development, and now I'll be uploading every Sunday the message to the men. So that's it for today. Take care.